They were called washed, too top-heavy, not deep enough. Another wasted year. But what the Edmonton Oilers did this season, it wasn't just a comeback. It was a rebirth. Chapter 1, Shifted Perspectives. After an emotional 2023-24 season that ended in disappointment in Game 7 in the Stanley Cup Finals, the Oilers entered this year with sky-high expectations. Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, Zach Hyman, a blue line reinforced with Ekholm. This was supposed to be the year. And then, well, the opening weeks happened. Injuries, check. McDavid missed key games in the opening stretch. Defensive breakdowns, you bet. Goaltending woes, we'll get to that later. The Oilers fell to the bottom half of the Western Conference. Fans were furious. The media, relentless. And the issue wasn't just in the locker room. It was all of the new faces. With the Oilers just in free agency, trading about half of their entire locker room, the chemistry just wasn't there. But somewhere around late November, something shifted. Leon Draisaitl, criticized for being too passive, put the team on his back during McDavid's absence, recording a blistering 16 points over a 9-game stretch. Kasperi Kapanen started making a name for himself with some truly clutch efforts. The blue line tightened up thanks to Brett Kulak and even, somehow, Darnell Nurse. They both ate tough innings. Then came McDavid's return, and that's when it all started to click. Game after game, win after win, Edmonton crawled back into the playoffs for the picture. Zach Hyman, one of the league's top goal scorers. Nugent Hopkins quietly putting together another point per game season. Even some depth additions like Corey Perry, even though he's like 40 years old, came with that clutch factor during games. By April, the Oilers were one of the hottest teams in hockey. And their 4-2 win against the San Jose Sharks on April 11th didn't just clinch a playoff berth. It started and it ignited the shift in the mentality. From a sense of embarrassment to a sense of relief. The Oilers organization was able to shift the perspectives by all their fans. But there was an issue that occurred secretly behind the shadows. And that issue was Mattias Ekholm. He was suffering through the injury, and Mattias Ekholm was slowly suffering while the Oilers built on that run. But the question was, how did that happen, and what truly was going on? Chapter 2, The Ekholm Disaster. Mattias Ekholm was a crucial pickup for the Edmonton Oilers from Nashville. He quickly improved the Oilers' blue line and was deemed to be one of Ken Holland's, the old Oilers general manager, one of his actual successes. With Mattias Ekholm being solid on the blue line with Evan Bouchard, things seemed to be going great. But if we look at Ekholm's injuries, his past injuries, by Fox Sports, who's reporting on this, we see some interesting things that could relate to Ekholm's current injury that happened, first of all, on March 13th, 2024. He had an undisclosed injury. If we really look closely at what happened near that game, it seemed as he was hit around near the hip area. As we know, as in earlier in 2023 of October 13th, he had a hip flexor injury, which is interesting because Mattias Ekholm currently has an injury near that area. With him just kind of having that undisclosed injury, it seemed to be something around his hip area. With a type of core injury, or rumored to be a groin pull, this doesn't seem surprising. As if we keep looking further in the injury list, we see in 2025 on March 5th, we saw he also was out again with an undisclosed injury. And just a few days later, on March 27th of 2025, he was also out again with the same undisclosed injury. Now, in the hockey league, which is really annoying to me as a fan, teams like to put undisclosed because they don't want it's kind of a dumb reason, like their other teams, they don't want them to know how long their player's going to be out. Anyways, I have kind of put together these pieces of the puzzle, and I've seen, as he's had this history with maybe his lower body, especially near his hip and groinal area, he's had injuries around continuing on. And if we really check, defenseman for the Edmonton Oilers, he was sidelined since April 11th due to that undisclosed injury. He briefly returned for a game against the San Jose Sharks, but left after just 1 minute and 52 seconds left of ice time. Reason being is because if we look really closely at the replay, he was hit in that same hip area. On May 19, he participated in his first full team practice since the injury. He said that he feels good. The only question is, this is what I think. This is kind of a theory as an Oilers fan. With the continuous undisclosed injuries, and with Mattias Ekholm being such a crucial part of the defense, they refused to rest him. They refused to say, let's let Ekholm take a step back, maybe get surgery or something to help heal his wound. And I feel like Stan Bowman understood that. He understood that assignment, and that's why the Oilers picked up defensemen like Ty Emberson and just recently Jake Wallman from the Detroit Red Wings. With these defensive replacements seeming like they were supposed to be replacements for Ekholm in the playoffs, it really is astounding to me on why they didn't rest Ekholm earlier. But even without Ekholm, the Oilers continued on with their playoff journey. And the question is, what will their playoff push look like? Chapter 3, the playoff push. The playoffs arrived, and the Oilers knew this was their moment. No excuses, no mercy. Everyone in the hockey world says, you know what? The moment you go into the playoffs, it's just you just flip a switch and you will play astronomically better. That simply isn't true. To be good in the playoffs, you have to remain consistent. And this is something the Oilers still have yet to struggle with round 1 against the Los Angeles Kings. It's a rivalry that's going bitter with every single time that they face off each other in the playoffs. With this being the 4th year in a row that they play each other in the first round, the LA Kings looked to make history. The first 2 games, LA took them right away. The Kings went up 2-0 in the series, and doubts crept back in. And do you know who's in net? Stuart Skinner. With him being very uneasy, it seemed interesting, but we'll cover that later. In Game 3, Connor Brown scores his first of the playoffs, silencing all of the doubters who questioned his roster spot. Game 4, Draisaitl comes in with the clutch overtime win. Game 5, a dismantling at home. The Oilers had finally had a lead where the team was now up in games. The Oilers finally had a chance to look at their future with them being up 3-2 in the series. Game 6, McDavid had a 4-point night to seal it. 4 straight wins. Series over. Message was sent. So going into round 2 against the Vegas Golden Knights, they looked around. The Vegas Golden Knights had recently won the Stanley Cup, a team that knocked them out just 2 years ago. This time, it was a different story. Game 1, a statement game for the Edmonton Oilers. With the Oilers being that team that continuously pushed against them, the Oilers took a commanding 4-2 win against the Vegas Golden Knights in Game 1. Game 2, the Oilers won again, 5-4 in overtime. In Game 3, Oilers faced a sense of disappointment. Could this have been the turning point that Vegas had by just being a game shy from tying the series? Except the Oilers weren't gonna stand for that. Games 4 and 5, the Oilers had a shutout from none other than their pretty much roll the dice goaltender in Stuart Skinner. He looked solid. He had 2 shutouts in a row. And the Oilers felt like they could be unstoppable. The team that couldn't even make it out of October with dignity, now they're just 4 wins away from the Stanley Cup final. But it's not an easy path. The Oilers still have some setbacks. Chapter 4, Setbacks. The Edmonton Oilers have had their fair share of setbacks. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, goaltending. Stuart Skinner entered in the season as the guy. A young starter with a huge burden, but it hasn't gone to plan. With a below .900 save percentage of the regular season, Skinner has been wildly inconsistent. One night he looks like a future Vezina candidate, and the next he lets in 3 goals on 9 shots. Head coach Chris LeBlanc had no choice but to start leaning more on the veteran backup Calvin Pickard. Before the Oilers had put in Stuart Skinner later in the playoffs, the records were clear. Skinner had lost 2 games with an average goals against average of over 6, which is terrible, with Calvin Pickard having a GAA of 2.84 and having a 6 wins and 0 losses record once he stepped in. Pickard, while still not elite, has brought stability. He's calm, reliable, and made massive saves in both Kings and Vegas series. But let's be honest, you don't want to be rotating goalies this deep in the playoffs. It's not sustainable. To make things harder, Pickard managed to get himself injured day to day. So, Stuart Skinner had to step in. And that's when he began to seem more confident in his crease. And even though he had 2 shutouts in a row, the question is, will Stuart Skinner really stay sustainable? And it's not just on goaltending. The blue line has been slightly banged up, with Mattias Ekholm missing those months with injury. Defensive pairings have been turned into chaos. And it's not just defense. The team's secondary scoring has gone missing at times. Evander Kane seemed strong out there, getting checks and becoming his dominant self. But the only issue was how the top line responded. Players like McDavid and Draisaitl, even though they were the best of the best, at some games in the Vegas series, they seemed non-existent, where the 3rd and 4th line had to step up. Whether this was intentional or not still remains a mystery. But if the Oilers want to win the Stanley Cup, they need all-round depth. Chapter 5, Hesitance. All fans in oil country and even around the league either see Chris LeBlanc as a game-saving hero or a wild card. After he took over for Jay Woodcroft last season, and to his credit, he did help stabilize the locker room and elevate the team's play. He led the team on a 16-game win streak last season. But there's one thing that some Oilers fans, and even me, keep pointing out: the blend. Every single game, he does not stay with the same lines. He blends lines up, puts incorrect pairings together, and just makes the team statistically and visually worse on the ice. Every loss, almost a full reshuffle. Even during wins, Chris LeBlanc often tweaks lines mid-game. And this is not always a bad thing, but with it being this continuous, it's starting to become a setback for the Edmonton Oilers. And with players not even knowing what the lines they're on that game, it's become difficult. It's a coach searching for magic, but sometimes at the expense of chemistry. With When every time the Oilers are down maybe 2 goals, he just loads up McDavid and Draisaitl, expecting them to just carry the wins out. Take Jeff Skinner, for example, as another example for this situation. Acquired at the deadline for added scoring punch. He's been healthy, scratched multiple times in the playoffs, even though this is his first playoff appearance. When he has played, he's looked energized and effective. Yet, he's constantly overlooked. Earlier this season, when Jeff Skinner had a chance to play with McDavid, he was astronomical. But for some reason, Chris LeBlanc doesn't trust him. Even Connor Brown. Let's take example Connor Brown. His defensive game has been rock solid. And yet, they gave him one chance on the first line, and they just immediately put him back to this 4th or 3rd. I understand that you need depth, but if players are playing well, why don't you put them on the first line rather than having someone that barely can play well like Nugent Hopkins? Chris LeBlanc's decision has had fans left scratching their heads. Is he trying to outcoach opponents or just overthinking the simple solution? Depth players like Janmark and even, at this point, Kasperi Kapanen have been leaned on heavily, sometimes more than guys in the higher offensive upside. And the constant juggling risks throwing off the rhythm on top performers like Hyman, Nugent, even McDavid. Yes, it's working so far. But in the high-stakes chess match against Dallas, trusting the players you brought in should be the difference between heartbreak and history. Chapter 6, Conclusion. Now, this video has taken a lot of effort and a lot of research in it, and I really just want to sum up my thoughts. The Oilers need to find themselves here. The Western Conference Final, facing the Dallas Stars, the same thing that happened last year. A rematch of a tough battle. McDavid and Draisaitl are healthy. The supporting cast is deeper. The wounds are fresh and the hunger is real. Dallas, they're not the same either. Rupe Hintz, Jason Roberts, and Mikko Rantanen at the deadline make this arguably the deepest team in the West. Mikko Rantanen has been instrumental, but at times it seems as if Dallas is so heavily reliant on them, and the Oilers will need to expose this in their series with Dallas. Dallas is structured, disciplined, and they'll punish every mistake. For Edmonton, the key isn't just scoring. It's bullying. It's the goaltending showing up. It's trusting the system. It's finding that next gear. Because this window won't stay open forever. Connor McDavid needs a re-signing after this season. And the future at Edmonton grows more uncertain with each missed opportunity. This is it. This is the year they rewrite the narrative. From chokers to champions, from inconsistent to invincible, the Oilers have faced the odds. Now they must overcome them. And will the Oilers step up when they need